Oh, am I happy to see you guys today. Around the horn on Kevin Durant and that moment last night. And college number one going down. And the NFL, a trade request, a new deal, but maybe the biggest deal, a trade with some big shoulders brought to Caleb Williams. Let's go around the horn. NFL news of the day, a trade, a deal, and a trade request. What do you want to start with? The leg or the wing? The arm or the leg? DK Metcalf wants out of Seattle. That's where we'll begin. Seahawks also making news on the wide receiver front, releasing Tyler Lockett. That was expected on some level. Mina, pick up the pieces of your precious Seahawks. Tell us what it all means.
Yeah, this is big news for free agency, especially given the dearth of receivers available. Tony, flatly, this is about money. It's about what DK Metcalf wants. It's about what Seattle wants or doesn't want to give him. It's what another team might give him. Starting with DK Metcalf. So I don't think he has expectations of setting the wide receiver market. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, but I would be surprised if he wants less than $30 million a year. From the Seahawks' perspective, there's some hesitation there, probably because of how they view him, whether or not they see him as a true number one, but also because of what happened in the second half of the season last year, which is Jackson Smith-Njigba emerged as the focal point of that offense. From week 9 onwards, he was 7th in yards per route run, league-wide, 5th in explosive play rate. So you could see them thinking he is the future of our group. And if another team, say the Chargers, the Packers, the Patriots, wants to pay DK Metcalf and is willing to pay us to get that right, well, they're going to consider it. Now, I do think the devil is going to be in the details in terms of what they can actually get for him, but I am not surprised in some ways that it led to this.
So point blank, though, do you feel this is a hard reset for Seattle?
No, I don't, because I do think Jackson Smith-Njigba, is the number
Kevin
one.
Clark,
but
I go
if they
around
move on
to
from
you
him, they're going to have
because you don't believe in any NFL trade request. You say, forget it, we'll move on. So please, on the news of the day with Metcalf.
NFL teams love ignoring trade requests. It's one of their favorite things to do. No NFL team has ever actually given up a superstar they wanted to keep in history. Go through it. They wait until the timing is right. Having said that, the Seattle Seahawks should follow in the footsteps of another Seattle icon, Dr. Frazier Crane, and say, I'm listening. DK Metcalf is a 27-year-old receiver going into his last year. There's going to be a high price put on him. Maybe it's a first-round pick, maybe it's a second, but I think that the Seahawks should really listen to these types of offers. I think that this is the type of guy you move. He's going to, as Mina said, this is going to be very expensive to keep him. There are options to replace him internally. I just think there's going to be a desperation between the teams that Mina mentioned, the Chargers, the Packers, the Patriots, who just need somebody to catch the ball.
All right.
They give up a lot. They're ready to
So
pay
you
DK
think there
Metcalf.
could still be, okay, baby, I hear the Blues are calling. All right, Bill Barnwell around the horn to you.
Kevin Clark advocating for DK Metcalf to go from Seattle to Boston, the reverse Frazier Crane,
as
many of us are saying.
Oh.
I just wonder
boy.
about DK Metcalf. The thing that he mentioned in this trade request, was that he wanted to play for a contender. And I wonder, Tony, are there really a lot of teams who are more competitive, possibly trading for a star wide receiver, than the team DK Metcalf would be leaving? The Seahawks did not make the postseason, but they were 10-7 last year, 11th in scoring defense. And by the way, Mike Macdonald, the Seahawks coach, had a big second-year bump when he was in Baltimore as DC, went from being a good defense to the best defense in all of football. In year 2, I think that defense is good. To me, it feels like kind of an argument against Geno Smith, the guy maybe who might not be the quarterback who can take the Seahawks to the next level. To me, I think DK Metcalf, at least on paper, fits better with the Seahawks than he does with any of the teams likely to trade for DK Metcalf.
David Dennis Jr., around the horn to you.
And this is where the Frazier references come to a screeching halt. This is talking about DK Metcalf here. DK Metcalf, what was most interesting to me about what he said is that he wants to go to a contender, and he is talented enough to elevate a contender to another level. They've talked about some of the teams. There's the Chargers. I think the Texans may be interested. The Bills may be interested. There's a lot of maybe Baltimore wants something to do with him. But there's a team out there that he can go to, that he can elevate. He's got 900 yards for every season of his career. This guy can still do. He's only 27 years old. He can be somebody that can put somebody at the next level.
We'll move on to another story here. Still football. It's how whispers and reports and judgments of players' character in team meetings comes out. You may have seen the post from NFL insider Josina Anderson. I'll read it here. I'm disappointed to hear that a quarterback's coach from a team drafting in the top 7 referred to Shedeur Sanders as coming off as brash and arrogant in his team interview. Anderson going on to say the coach's personal assessment is the direct opposite of how Sanders came across to many reporters. We now have a response from Sanders. How you know, he said on this post for Football Forever. And now we have additional reporting from NBC Sports' Matthew Berry, citing sources that there were 2 bad meetings where Sanders came off, quote, unprofessional and disinterested. And more elaboration from Berry on the screen right here. But Kevin Clark, around the horn to you on how you hear reports like this and what kind of stake you put into them.
I've met a lot of quarterbacks, and if you're going to take all of the brash quarterbacks off your board, you're not going to have a very big board. Having said that, as the only panelist who had a sit-down with Shedeur Sanders in the past month at the Super Bowl, I feel like I have some insight on this. Shedeur Sanders came over, I was his first interview of the day, and he introduced himself to everybody on my crew. There were Omaha employees who had nothing to do with my show that Shedeur was conversing with. They were confused, I was confused, but he just wanted to be a really nice guy and introduce himself. And so that doesn't typically happen in interviews, doesn't happen in media requests. When I sat down with him, it felt like he was trying to say he doesn't have a typical quarterback's mentality. He doesn't watch current NFL quarterbacks because he'd rather beat you than idolize you. I think that's something that would maybe strike NFL teams as different. But I think he says he learned a lot from Deion Sanders, his father, who has a defensive backs mentality. It's a different type of mentality. I would draft him. I think he's a very good quarterback. I'm not worried about his demeanor at all.
Mina Kimes, you were at the Combine last week, and also how you put stock into any of this, or if you do.
Yeah, so in Indianapolis, I did have a chance to talk with a lot of coaches, executives about Sanders. Less about his personality, though, and more about his perceptions of his play. And to put it bluntly, the reviews were mixed and echo my own. A lot liked what they saw on tape in terms of his intelligence and his accuracy, but there were questions about his arm talent, athleticism, and pocket management. And I think it's those questions, far more so than the perceptions of how he comes across, that have been separating him and Cam Ward. I came away from Indianapolis thinking Cam Ward is very clearly going to be the first quarterback taken, and I think that gap has grown as more teams have watched him on tape.
David Dennis Jr. around the horn to you.
Yeah, there's nothing to me that's more sort of useless than these anonymous coaches who go into the combine and come out talking about somebody's arrogance or cockiness, things like that. That really has not translated to how great a player is in the history of these combines. The difference between cockiness and confidence is about perspective and biases and things you bring into these situations. I'm more interested in the stuff that Mina was talking about, what you see on the field. But when they always come out of these combines and talk about these things, it does not really mean anything to me in terms of how good that player is or how good they're going to be on a certain team. So I just don't think that there's any use or effectiveness in having those kind of conversations.
Perhaps, but teams certainly put stock in these meetings if they're having these meetings, right? Bill, I'll get back to you. Bill Barnwell, around the horn to you.
Yes and no. Some teams do. I mean, the Rams don't even send Sean McVay and Les Snead to the Combine anymore. Some teams basically have phased this out. What I would say, though, is this is something that's come up a lot for players at this part of the process because it feels like there's nothing else to say. There's no players who are playing we can see. I think about someone like a Joey Bosa, who the Browns were upset at him for wearing sweatpants to their team meeting. It's worked out fine for Joey Bosa elsewhere. Christian McCaffrey, remember it was famous, he was going to get knocked down draft boards because he didn't play in his team's Sun Bowl game. That did not matter. Christian McCaffrey got drafted high, had a great career. This stuff does not matter. If you like Shedeur Sanders, you are going to draft him regardless of what you saw from him and how he talked to people at the Combine. And if you don't like him, for the reasons Mina mentioned, you're not going to like him either way.
Understandably. But still, this stuff is now out there. As unfair as that may be, it's out there. We've heard your stories, Bill, or what you just cited as examples. We've heard them the opposite way, too. Teams that have asked terrible questions.
Wasn't. Yes, spoiler alert, Bill Barnwell, the Bears have made a bunch of dumb moves over the past, 70 years. But this is a little bit different. Ben Johnson, everybody said the whole thing was, oh, Ben Johnson, how's he going to do without a worse offensive line? Or how's he going to do without the best offensive line in football? He's got to improve it. Well, we're not going to find out because Ben Johnson is building a good offensive line. This is what Caleb Williams needed. He took 64 sacks last year. This is important.
David Dennis Jr.?
Yeah, I'm with Kevin here. The reason that a lot of those moves that Bill mentioned did not work is because Caleb didn't have enough time to get the ball out because he was getting sacked so much and under pressure so much. You add a dude who has been to 6 Super Bowls in 9 years, who has a high pass block win rate. He's going to protect Caleb and he's going to make sure that they can actually utilize that offense. This is just a home run move to me if I'm Chicago.
I'll split the difference here. I like the Tooney move, a little more suspicious of the Jackson move. Lots of questions from the Chiefs' perspective, but ultimately they just ran into the cap and I don't think could afford to pay the offensive line as much as they are.
Taking a break here. Buy or sell next.
Welcome back to Around the Horn, coming to you from the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17.
NBA last night, one of those records or numbers you knew but you didn't know. Be honest. 50,000 career points, regular season, postseason combined for LeBron James. He had 34. The Lakers routed the Pelicans. David, what does 50,000 for LeBron mean?
It means that we are watching the most unbreakable career record that the NBA will ever have. Nobody's touching this record. The guy already has 6,000 more points than Kareem, and he's not slowing down. Adding in Luka is going to add more years to this and thousands of more. The dude just got Western Conference Player of the Month, who averaged like 29, 10, and 6 during that time. I don't know when he's slowing down. This thing is going to keep rolling.
But I like where you went with buy or sell, unbreakable record. Writing goes to David Dennis Jr. Kevin Clark, around the horn to you.
I'm buying the unbreakable record. Nobody is supposed to dominate for this long. Like a LeBron James, like a Tom Brady, like a Woody Page. For me, I look at this and I think about this Tom Haberstroh stat from last night, which is that Dwayne Wade and Tracy McGrady scored less points combined than LeBron James. You have to stack their careers, two of the best scorers of their era, their careers on top of each other in a trench coat to get to LeBron James.
Bill Bardwell, buy or sell, unbreakable record, 50,000 points combined.
I buy that it's unbreakable, but I also am selling the fact that he got to 50K last night. This is a guy who had 74 points in play-in games for the postseason. Those games count. Had 25 in the in-season tournament.
Okay.
They raised a banner to the rafters to celebrate winning the in-season tournament. These games count.
I want to take
meaningful.
points away,
Why
but
are
you're
we not
right, because
counting
we
them
never
in
do
LeBron
postseason, regular
history?
season combined with their stats. Okay. All right, Mina Kimes, how about you?
You need a button that just goes womp womp for that. It is unbreakable for a couple of reasons. One is LeBron's continued dominant play and the way his game has evolved as he's become a better three-point shooter. I think it's appropriate that last night he was 5 for 10 from 3. It's a big part of why he is building on that lead, and what a lead it is. 15,000 points up on Kevin Durant. Even if Durant averaged 2,000 points a season for the next 6 years, he still wouldn't touch
I know, but we say this. It's an unbreakable record, and somehow sports finds a way to break the unbreakable. But none of you knew that was 50,000 last night until somebody told you. We're actually combining posts. Bardwell, you'll get those points. You were a little specious on that. We'll move on. Kevin Durant with that moment with Mike Budenholzer last night.
That's what usually happens when you don't know the dynamics of a relationship. You know, you catch something on TV, you get a quote, and now you pushing that narrative as if me and Bud don't do that all the time. We competitive as two individuals who want to see things done the right way. And sometimes my way ain't the way that Bud want to do it, and vice versa. And he allows me as a player on the team, a veteran on the team, to voice my opinion. If we both didn't care, we would never have stuff like that. Come on, man. That shows that me and Bud really care about trying to right this ship and trying to win basketball games.
David, how do you hear Durant there? How do you see coach and player last night?
So two things can be true here. One, Kevin Durant can be absolutely right. That's how he interacts with a lot of different people. He's very passionate about the way the game goes, and he argues with folks and makes up with them. That's just how he is as a person. The other thing that's true is that there is real, genuine frustration within that Phoenix Suns organization with how this season has gone. Nobody thought they'd be playing this poorly with that roster, adding a point guard and all that stuff. They are barely scratching the surface of being possibly getting into the play-in. I don't think they're going to make it in the play. I think Portland is actually going to jump ahead of them, and Durant is going to be out the door in a couple of months anyway.
AC?
Bill Barnwell already preemptively upset that Kevin Durant's play-in points are not going to count towards career total. I'm sure maybe you could petition the league, Bill, something like that. For me, the biggest issue right now is that the Suns, who are not a very good team right now, have the hardest opponents winning percentage from here on out. A .590 winning percentage for their opponents. They are not good.
Okay, I showed you this video. Talk about the video. Don't give me their future play schedule. Bill Barnwell around the horn to you on what you saw last night between player and coach.
Yes, this was a non-story, not for the reasons KD is mentioning. It's a non-story because it didn't impact how the team actually played. This was in the first quarter, and in the second quarter, they allowed 41 points to the Clippers. That is the problem with this team. This defense is atrocious. Ivica Zubac scored 35 points in this game. That is the issue, is that they're trying to find a solution for a problem that has plagued them all year, and so we're trying to latch on to excuses and justifications because nothing has made sense.
But they came back and won the game, right? In the end, Mina Kimes around the horn to you.
I'll be body language doctor. Didn't look good in the video. I do think you can chalk some of that up to Durant being ultra competitive and whatnot, but as the blame game intensifies, and it will, that's what happens when a good team underperforms expectations the way the Suns have, you start looking at these incidents and they start mounting up. I say mounting up because a few days ago, Chris Haynes reported that there was some tension between Bud and Devin Booker. So now we have two pieces of evidence to deal with between him and a player.
Thank you for your time today, Mina Kimes and Bill Barnwell, David Dennis Jr., and Kevin Clark. That's our showdown next.
Gravity Defier for life. Imes for life.
Around the Horn is brought to you by UFC 313. Saturday. Buy now at ESPNplus.com/PPV.
Only time for one showdown. Hiroki Sasaki's the newest Dodger, and his debut in the spring was last night. It was described as electric, nasty, and heavy, which is the same headline when Black Sabbath broke out in 1968. Enough to make you a believer, David Dennis Jr.
Absolutely. 4 of his 5 strikeouts were from that splitter. He is going to be giving other teams heart attacks, much like Frazier gave his dad a heart attack in episode 16 of season 11 of Frazier, my favorite TV show.
KC.
So I completely agree, David. He threw 8 splitters last night. 7 were whiffs. In Japan, he had 19 strikeouts in a game. That's an all-time record. He's going to be able to do that kind of thing in America.
Dave, we threw a lot at you today. Frazier, Black Sabbath, and you're getting the FaceTime.
My heart goes out to all wrestling fans around the world. Our hearts are broken. John Cena did the unthinkable on Sunday, turned heel, kicked Cody Rhodes right below the belt, joined The Rock. John Cena, why? Why? You've been a good guy this whole time. What happened to hustle, loyalty, respect? Do not sell your soul. Come back, John. This is not how you retire, John. This is how you break everybody's hearts. I can't believe you did it.
You're not the first panelist to bring that up this week. Thank you, David. All right, a little time still? Meet me at camera 7, please. Hello, I want to thank everybody, the millions upon millions, literally, that saw the news, and the thousands upon thousands that commented. Gonna crash the system here. They never get that much love for one show. I need you to see me right now because I want to see my face as I say this. There are gonna be tough days in your life. Meeting those head on is a good strategy. So I say now, our great show will be signing off this air in a few months. May 23rd is our final episode of Around the Horn. I've got 3 months. I intend to respond to you all, but I'll say this in the meantime. You want to be happy for an hour? Have my mom's pasta. You want to be happy for a day? Watch Goodfellas. You want to be happy for a week? Hang out with me. If you want to be happy in life, either get engaged at the LaGuardia airport bathroom or find a place where people will miss you when it's over. I got both right now. We feel your love. Around the Horn.